I'm glad you could be with me tonight on the 30th of June, which in Australia is the official end of the financial year and also represents the end of the first month of summer. Wherever you are, I hope you're staying COVID safe and enjoying your time and being caring to all those around you. Tonight what I'm doing is I'm going to go through and do a preview of all the BMW liveries that I've created so far in Gran Turismo 7. I'm not sure how long this will take, but I'm basically going to start from the top in no particular order and work my way through the liveries. There's not a huge amount so far, and that's because Gran Turismo 7 as a game obviously takes a bit longer for you to accumulate the credits you need to purchase, if I can use that word, the cars that you would like to purchase. And some of those cars don't become immediately available either because they're not on the existing currently manufactured list for BMW cars. But as you can see there's a couple of 3-litre CSLs, which is perhaps my favourite all-time BMW car, and a car with that I one day hope to own. Let's see. Okay, so let's kick it off, and I'm going to kick it off with my first ever BMW that I owned, which is the E46 BMW M3. And what I'm going to do is jump into the preview section of the game, so I apologise, we'll get a couple of black screens while the various parts of the game load, or galleries load. Short story behind my first M3 was it was actually, I believe I was told by the dealership, the BMW dealership, that it was the car that BMW Australia actually used and took around Australia to the automotive car shows that still happened at the time here in Australia, and it was on display because the model had only just launched here in Australia. And my particular car was a 6-speed manual. It was done in what's called the Laguna Seca blue colour, which is not the colour you're seeing on that car there at all. And it had the matching Laguna Seca blue Napa leather interior. And I just noticed there's a glitch still in the game where the brake caliper colour is not correct, but anyway, we'll persist. They should be a different colour. So, yeah. What can I tell you about the car? I think from memory 343 brake horsepower, came with either 18-inch rims or 19-inch optional rims, could be had in what they call a sequential manual gearbox or SMG, or the traditional 6-speed manual here in Australia. Obviously this is not an Australian iteration of it because it's showing you that it's a left-hand drive, whereas Australian cars are all right-hand drive. Sunroof, lots of great wonderful technology in the car, but the thing that remains with me is the sound of the car, the sound of the engine, the sound of the induction, the sound of the exhaust, and just what a lovely and well designed and engineered car it is. I won't say it was, because they're still very well and truly available and being driven around by lots of people who also appreciate the virtues of BMW. I think some people have actually said that the E46 represents to them the pinnacle of that beautiful blend between style and performance, and it still remains a really pretty car. Its proportions are lovely. The silhouette from the side looks very elegant and well proportioned. Just a wonderful study in design, really, I think. And so with this livery, what I tried to do was I tried to not over... what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't want to overcome the design of the car. I wanted to complement it in some way. But also give it a very unique look and play with some of the colours. And I think this colour, although it's not an actual E46 colour that I'm aware of, just really is a beautiful metal fleck through it. But it to me, it's a beautiful colour on this car. So that's the first livery. You'll see the number plate says RP Bandit. RP stands for role play, which is a type of way you can play Gran Turismo in particular lobbies, as they call them in the game. I've done some customization around the rondelle, as you can see. And I also like the fact that I could flare the guards. That really accentuates the muscular style. Even without those flared guards, the car as a standard does have flaring of the guards, and it gave it a really tough, masculine stance. You know, I shouldn't say masculine, an aggressive stance. You know, saying it's masculine is like saying that women can't be aggressive, and they certainly can be. Okay, hopefully you've got enough of that car. I won't say a lot about the livery design on this one because there wasn't a whole amount of technique used, but I hope that you think it's a nice looking car. And as I said, I'm just going to go through them in the order that they appeared on the screen under the manufacturer. So it does require us to jump in and out of things, and I apologise for that. A little bit more clunky in Gran Turismo 7 than it is in Gran Turismo Sport to transition from car to car. I'm sure there's justifiable reasons for that in terms of the design of the game. Excuse me. I'll leave that. I will actually jump that because it comes under the BMW brand, but it's actually the McLaren F1 GTR race car, so I'll leave that and come back to it. You're going to see the cars, just as we load them up, you'll see they'll come up with an original colour scheme, or style as they're called in this game, and then the livery / style that I've created will then quickly populate and propagate onto the car. This particular car I'm about to look at is actually a race car replica livery, so I can't lay credit for the actual design, but obviously I've created the livery on this car as accurately as I can. And it's actually a livery, you know, without offending BMW, but it's interesting how the front end of the F80 M4, which is this particular BMW, how the front end of itself with its ducting, etc., has such similarities to the Australian-made Chevrolet-owned Holden Commodore that was used in V8 supercars at the time. And I think this is either 1997, 98 or 99, but this is a Commodore livery. In fact, it was the first VT Commodore, which is one of the series of Commodores manufactured under the Holden brand, and it was raced by a very famous Australian race car driver named Larry Perkins, and for the Bathurst 1000 it was driven by both Larry and another gentleman by the name of Russell Ingle, and this car actually ended up winning from last place. And Larry Perkins, whilst he was also drove in Formula One back in the, I think, early 70s, he really became renowned for his engineering of his cars. So yes, so this was a very spectacular livery at the time, and the front end of it, with, as I said, the scoops, the grille, the headlight shape, actually are quite similar looking to the VT Commodore at the time, so the livery suited it. So hopefully that's good enough view of the car. Not sure what else I can tell you about it. Took quite a while to design the livery. Some of those elements were not easy to do, and working around some of the shapes of the car with the livery tool, and it's a very good livery tool, but it does have limitations. Okay. Let's move to the next car. Again, apologies for having to jump from screen to screen. I wish there was an easier way. If I do just bring a car out and I don't say too much, or anything in fact, that will be because there's nothing really I want to say about the livery, and sometimes I might prefer that I speak less and just take in all the images. For those of you who aren't familiar, the branding on this particular livery, and this is a fantasy livery, as most of my liveries are, so they're not based excuse me, they're not based on a car, a replica, or anything like that. They're just a completely original design out of my brain, you know, my ideation or imagination. But sometimes they might look like they were a race car, but in most cases I can confirm that they're definitely not race car liveries, or replicas of race car liveries. But Bundaberg Rum, which is the main logo sponsor on this livery, is an Australian, I guess, dark rum manufacturer as opposed to a white rum. And yeah, I like their brand. I like the style of the font. I have no idea what that font style is, but I just like the look of it. And so I created this livery again on the BMW M4. In terms of the game, there's a couple of BMW race car variants. There's the M4, there's the M6, which races in what's called the Group 3 category, and there's also the BMW M3 GTR, and that also races in the GT3 category. Then there's the BMW Z4, and that races in GT3 as well. I think that's all of the categories that they have race cars in the game. By the way, please feel free to leave a comment if you watch any of these videos. I'm always keen to reply to people if they take the time to write in. And again, it helps me, because in terms of trying to create content that people would be interested in watching, and everybody only has limited time and you want to spend it wisely and enjoy the time that you have. So please help me to make my videos better, more entertaining, more interesting. Very mindful of my monologue being dreary or boring. And as I said before, it is a little bit clunky having to jump in and out of these different galleries to access the cars. Oil change, you can see there it's just normal, the oil's getting dirty. You can jump in and do that if that's okay, if you're human. It should only take 15 seconds, if or less, I hope. The idea of the oil change and other things that you can see right here is that the game wants to try and replicate the real experience of owning a car. In particular, in this game, most of the cars are performance cars. You know, maybe it's teaching good disciplines for the younger players. Not sure, maybe so. Just did the oil change, didn't I? That's saying normal. That's interesting. There's another glitch in the game. No, okay, that's interesting. Okay, let's proceed. Sorry, that did take longer than I expected. What can I tell you about this car? This was, I think, the first BMW livery that I did in Gran Turismo 7. Some of these are copies, so for example, that was a copy from GT Sport, that's a copy from GT Sport, that's a copy from GT Sport, and that's a copy from GT Sport. I see I've got a couple of duplicates, so I might remove them now, or at least this one, because I'm sure that's a duplicate. That one I'm not so sure about which one is the right one, so I have to come back to it. Anyway, let's keep going with what we're trying to do. So as I was saying, this was, I believe, the first BMW that I did in the game, and I quite like it because I wanted to do something to acknowledge the Gran Turismo franchise, and for myself, I've been a Gran Turismo player since Gran Turismo X, which was the very first Gran Turismo game back in 1996 or 1997, which is also showing my age, but I don't mind. I am what I am. And yeah, so I wanted to do something that was paying homage to Gran Turismo as a franchise, but also just played a bit with some colours. Been fairly popular, this livery too, considering the number of followers that I have now in this version of the game, which, to put that in context, when this game was released it took over from Gran Turismo Sport, and I had just on 1,000 followers in that game, which in the scheme of things is not huge, but I was particularly proud of the fact that there were enough people that were interested in what I was doing to get that many followers in the period of time that I did, because I didn't really start sharing my liveries until I think it was November of 2020, and by that stage a lot of other players had been sharing their liveries and had amassed a reasonable following, and so for me, starting off so much later than those that had started playing the game in 2018 effectively, I was quite happy that I was, you know, you feel gratified that what you're doing is what people are actually interested in watching. So from that perspective, I got up to 1,000 followers in a fairly reasonable time, and it was accelerating too. But then Gran Turismo 7 was released, and so all of a sudden a lot of players, a majority of players I would say, have migrated across to Gran Turismo 7, and whilst I can bring some of my liveries across, you don't retain your followers. So at the moment I think I've only got about 220 since this game launched in March, and again it's a upward trajectory that's not linear. So what I mean by that is it's more representative of a J curve type follower base that you establish, because the more liveries you do, the more people see, and that in turn accelerates the number of people that start looking for your design work. And so going back to that previous livery, I think it has 40 followers, but at the time that I released it or uploaded it, I think I only had something like 20 or 30 followers, so quite happy that there's 40 odd people out there, roughly just a bit under, that appreciate that livery. In terms of livery design, there's a lot of people in the game that don't necessarily want to do livery design, but I think there are a lot of people that believe that it's a very difficult process, and I think at first it can be, and I think it also depends on the degree of detail that you want to go to. That will ultimately determine how much time you spend making liveries. But a lot of people also, I think, struggle for inspiration as to what do they want to make a livery about. For me, I've never had a problem, and to give you an example, this particular livery really came out of nowhere. I was actually looking for another decal and just happened to be searching and saw this Kitsman decal, and I just liked how it looked. I liked the three-dimensional look of the logo. Now I have done some customization, because the background of that letter is there's an additional layer or two behind that, but I just liked that name. I have no idea what Kitsman is. It might be a drink, it could be something totally different, I do not know. But I liked the look of the logo, and so I decided I wanted to use it in a livery. And this is the livery that I ended up coming up with. Again, for those of you who are BMW aficionados, you will know that this is again the E46 M3, the first car that I showed in this broadcast, the blue one with the stripes. So this is in white, obviously. And yeah, I wanted to do something a little different from a colour perspective and also from a design perspective. So I've done a bit of a different treatment of the colours at the front there around the lights. But I believe it's effective. Hopefully that's enough for that car. And again, in terms of people that will watch this broadcast in the future or join it while I'm doing it live, if there's any particular cars that you'd want to see more of, just let me know, and I'll happily oblige. If you're in the game, I can perhaps send you pictures of the car, or if you want me to do more videos, or you want to see me driving the cars, I'm very open to anything like that. As I said earlier, my goal is to make content that's enjoyable, entertaining, that people are interested in watching. I don't want it to be about doing necessarily things that I like doing. This car, this livery, which is on the BMW F80 M4, is a livery that I made for an online friend of mine whose name or player ID is Shadow Racing, I think it is, off the top of my head. And he wanted a new livery for his team for his new racing league that he was about to start. And he asked me if I would make a livery for him. I said, what did you want me to make it about? He said, I've no idea, whatever you feel like doing. And so this is what I ended up doing. Tried to make it bright. I've tried to make it have contrasts. I've tried to make it have elements that highlight certain aspects of the car's design, its shape, its contours, etc. Be interested to see what people think of it. I've had some mixed reactions. I've had quite a few people that say they love it, but I've also had some people that aren't so positive about it. What I've tried to do with the theme is I've tried to reflect the older style rondelle graphic, which to me actually looks like it's more modern than the classic propeller rondelle. My thoughts. Anybody can challenge them. Quite happy to hear what other people think. Okay. Sorry again, folks, for the delay. This car is a themed car, but it's not a replica. But when you look at it, you may think that's a replica. It's definitely not, but I'm definitely sharing or using a very well-known car racing theme around John Player Specials, which were or might still be, I don't know, might still be a cigarette manufacturer. Don't want to advocate smoking, and certainly recommend that if people can avoid it, they should. I'm not a smoker myself, but both my parents were for many years, and yeah, not the most pleasant of environments to be around from the perspective of the smoke, smell in particular. So yeah, so with this car I've just tried to emulate the theme of most of their designs, which was a black and gold appearance. I hope you've enjoyed viewing that car. Let's move on, because I am mindful of time. I always have a goal to try and do my broadcasts in 30 minutes. I seldom achieve it, and that's because primarily the game has this wasted time in loading back and forth. I haven't been timing it, but I suspect it's something like 10 seconds between me exiting out of the livery editor view and getting to the point of swapping the car over and getting it back into the same environment. No, back into its garage, is what I mean. They're the 3 different liveries I've created for the E30 series, which to me is a shape that doesn't get old. Sorry, I just picked one car. My bad. Yeah, it doesn't get old as a shape to me. Something about it that's quite timeless. As much as I said earlier that I love the 3-litre CSL, and I truly do, it's a beautiful looking car. I kind of feel like this design is more timeless. I haven't quite worked out in my mind what it is about this car that makes it more timeless. But there's just something so well proportioned with this livery, sorry, this chassis and this design. And as you can see, I've tried to create an Alpina version of the car. The Alpina people might be shaking when they see this livery. They might think it's horrible, but I've definitely tried to be true to the Alpina brand in how I've created this livery, so certainly if I haven't done it, it's not through an intentional plan to disrespect the Alpina brand. Alrighty then, hopefully that's given you enough time to take in the Alpina BMW E30 M3, and we'll move to the next car. We can make these transitions a little quicker, I believe, because we're going to be seeing multiples of the same car, so we can always move quickly through them. This one's more of a traditional livery theme. Certainly not a factory or a replica livery, it is one that I created myself. But I was aiming to try and make the BMW M Sport logo look better, I guess, and the overall car livery look better. And so I came up with this design. that completes the 30 M3 collection so far. I certainly will make more, but I want it to be quiet and just let you look at the car and not have me talking to distract you. Not sure what the next car will be, but I'd like to think that we're at least halfway through, and if we're not, I'm certainly going to be accelerating the time it takes to show each car. So we can go to the first of my CSLs. So this particular 3SL, it appears there's a couple of variants that they have released for the game. And I have 3 different 3-letter CSLs, 2 of this style with the included aero kit and 1 without. But for me, I see this particular car as like the spiritual core or center of the BMW brand. I think so much of the design speaks to what the intentions of the gents at BMW were at the time, which was to build cars that were purely built for driving and for racing. You know, minimal pillars around the roofline, you know, to not only create a nice open cockpit and a very modern looking cockpit for the time, but also I would imagine to reduce weight so that the car was more nimble. But you know, for me, the lines of the car, the look of it, it's menacing, but it's also quite stylish. And you know, at the time when they came out, I imagine they really were attention grabbing. As far as the livery goes, you can see that I've tried to somehow respect the period of the time. So not a lot of stickers around the car and minimal decal work, but I thought it was appropriate to use Jägermeister as the sponsor. I just think it suits the car. Let's go and have a look at the second one. So, same car, but you can see that I have applied quite a different design style to the livery. Dark colours, base colours almost, reference to M Technic, which was, you know, around at the time before the M Works was established. Interestingly, this year they're celebrating 50 years of M. I believe. So which would take it back to 1972, and I think these were in fact the first M cars, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I need to brush up on my history on these cars, but it's definitely within that era. And I just love the simplification of the colour scheme, but also the fact that it does pay homage to the cars at the time. Okay. Time to move on. While we're still covering the 3-litre CSLs, I do want to give a shout out to Craig Rose. Craig Rose is the owner and dealer principal of one of the BMW dealerships here in Brisbane, called Motorline BMW. And then gotta go right out. And Craig has a 3-litre CSL, still in standard trim, and it's just the standard 3-litre CSL, so it doesn't have the wings and flared guards. But it's still a beautiful car. He generally, I believe, has it on display in the BMW dealership. But don't quote me on that. I don't want you to flock to that dealership to see the car. But this interior that we see here is exactly the same. So it's amazing to see the graphics in the game, knowing that you've seen the real thing. Maybe more prominent in Europe, I suspect, and maybe even America, that particular car, but not here in Australia. Okay. Now I did jump a few, didn't I, by doing those? I'm seeing the M6 yet, so let's go again. So in the game, there are racing series that you can participate in, and they have a major series called the Nations Cup and the Manufacturers Cup. And when you select the Manufacturers Cup, they effectively ask you to choose a brand, and you get contracted, if you like, is the term they use, contracted to that brand for the purpose of competing in the various events. And so they have a spec of the car, or the requirements of the car are in terms of horsepower, tyre type, suspension, etc., etc. They can, you can control that. But the idea is to try and bring parity, or a balance of power, as they term it in the racing circles. Anyway, I made this livery for one of those series called the Manufacturers Series. You can see right there in the middle of the door of the car, that's exactly what that trophy is about. Again, I've actually tried to recognise the traditional BMW M colours, although some would argue that the traditional M colours actually have a mauve purple colour in the livery, but I think definitely the livery combo of logo I've used is much more common. Move to the next car now. I'm just checking the time. So as I said, I'm mindful of going too long and for people to find it boring. Hopefully so far you are finding it interesting. I might speed up the time I spend showing you the car, and I'll try to limit any comments that I want to make as well, so that we can get through these cars more quickly. This car is another M4. It's a fantasy livery. Just wanted to do one around the Shell Helix Ultra brand, and as you can guess by now, I love BMWs, and so it was natural for me to look at creating this livery. I go into clear mode or outdoor clear mode because I think it more accurately reflects the colours on the cars as they appear in a lobby. As I said, this one I wanted to do on Shell, in particular Shell Helix Ultra, and so the colours needed to be reflective of the Shell brand, I guess. Okay. What I might do, being mindful of time, is do one more. Remember where I'm at in the order, and then do another episode on another day going through the remainder of the cars. Hasn't had a livery done yet, so I won't show that. And given that I'm only going to do one more, which leaves me with, what, 1, 2, 3 to do, 4 to do if I include the McLaren. So I will stop after this one, just in the essence of time. I wanted to show this one because this is what they call the BMW VGT. And I have to say it's one of the most enjoyable driving cars in the game because the chassis is both neutral but also quite responsive in the game, typically. I do anticipate that the real life version of it, should I ever be lucky enough to put my bum inside it, would be a very enjoyable drive. And they have made a couple of versions of this car, the 3-litre CSL Homage, which was made I think in 2020, maybe 2021. Shows direct linkages back to the 2002. Love the green in this paint too, it's really pretty, like a real emerald. No guesses for what the theme of this car is in terms of the sponsorship. I did a very lot of these in Gran Turismo Sport, but this is the only one I've done in Gran Turismo 7 so far, but I think I had nearly 20 of these. Fair to say it was one of my favourite cars to do liveries on. So, Iflowboy at YouTube, you should know that if you're already watching this, but if you stumbled upon my channel and you're wondering, that's one of the channel names. The other channel name is Fountain, but I think you'll find the Iflowboy channel is the one that has the most video content. It's an immaculately mean looking machine, you know, it's so menacing that that's part of its beauty. Anyway, I said that this would be our last car, and so I'll stick to that commitment. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this. Like I said, please subscribe. That helps me out ultimately. Helps me know that people are interested in watching the content that I do create. Please give me suggestions on content you'd like to see, and I'm more than happy to add that and cover that content. But in the meantime, I'd like to wish you all a good night or a good morning or a good afternoon. Hope you stay safe wherever you are and be kind to one another. And bye for now.